know, it may just be me, but I really got a feeling like we could catch fire and have a great season, huh? Now, who's with me?
Woo! The electric in the air!
Sometimes may be good, sometimes may be
The Cleats First, Logic Second Football Podcast with your hosts, Alexander Lauber and Phil Almodovar.
Welcome everyone and Happy New Year. Here we are, Phil, for the final episode of the Cleats First, Logic Second, January 2021 Transfer Bonanza. We are officially in the new year. The transfer window is here. And now let's look at La Liga and see what moves some of the biggest clubs in Spain can make to continue their push and what will surely be a close race for the top spot in La Liga.
Yes, so many clubs have came out firing. And of course, the biggest ones, Barcelona, Real Madrid, Atletico Madrid. We're going to talk about all those today. Alex, let's get right into it.
So first and foremost, let's talk about Atletico de Madrid. Phil, what three moves would you look to make if you were in charge of the transfer decisions at Atleti?
Well, first off, I have written here, and of course, this is not now that news has come out. Since Matter, Diego Costa is going to be seemingly leaving at the end of his contract. I would say I'd love to be able to sell him before he did, but it doesn't look like that's going to happen. It looks like he's going to walk to either China or the MLS or somewhere other than Europe come the end of the season. Now, one player who I do think Atletico could sell, and it's time to sell, is Kieran Trippier. He hasn't done it for me in that right back position. I think Atletico could do better. They're so close to being title contenders they are title contenders, but so close to getting over that hump to being title winners that I think that's one position that could be so much better. Get a world-class right back, Max Aarons, young world-class right back, someone of that nature to help you over that hump.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what they do. I'd agree. If you can sell Diego Costa in the January transfer window, I would definitely look to do that just so he doesn't walk away on a free. Trippier, I don't know if that'll happen. Who knows if he'll ever even play again for Atleti? That's yet to be seen. We'll see how that plays out. Something that I do think they need to bring in, being that they lost him in the final hours of this past summer's transfer window, you need to look to reinforce the midfield and replace Thomas Partey. Obviously, Lucas Torreira hasn't done that for the club, and that loan may very well be terminated. But I think you can look over to the struggling Valencia at Uros Rakic as a potential long-term solution for the club. He's a box-to-box midfielder, has great work rate and defensive prowess, but looks good offensively. Lots of potential there, and I think he could be ready to make his mark after spending a couple of loan spells outside of Spain with one of its top clubs.
Interesting take there, Alex. Definitely a possibility for sure. We move on to Real Sociedad, another club up towards the top of La Liga this season, looking for a way to, like Atletico de Madrid, get over the hump and become title winners in a season where Real Madrid and Barcelona have both hit road bumps. Alex, what can Real Sociedad do to take that jump?
I think first and foremost, if you look at their roster, they are in need of a center back. It's very young, so you may want to bring in an experienced defender to boost the lineup and give them some experience. If I look at someone who had a good spell during his time in Spain and is looking for a change of environment, Scroden Mustafi from Arsenal may be that person. We know on his day he can be good, and he does have a lot of flaws in his game. Maybe in the Spanish league, that can get the most out of Mustafi with a return to Spain. Goaltending depth would also be a concern for me, and for that I would look to Saint Etienne in France at Stefan Bajic on a loan deal with a potential option to buy. Not much first-team football for him at Saint Etienne, as he's young, but he does have potential to grow. And one of the biggest things, I would not sell any of the young central players on this team. So I'm talking about Ishak, Oyarzabal, and Baranetsea. those are all crucial young players to how this team plays and their success that they found so far this season. So obviously you'll have teams at least feeling out for them. It's yet to be seen if there'll be any serious big offers, but do not leave.
Yeah, Alex, it's interesting for Real Sociedad in the fact that I think personally, yeah, they need a center back. Me and you both agree on that. In order to win a division, especially a top division like La Liga, you need to spend the money to do so. You need to fervor that want, that desire in order to do so. And I think they need to splash some money, get a player like Klosterman from RB Leipzig to add to that center back, add that key player in order to get you over the top. Goalkeeper depth could also be addressed. It's not exactly, a huge need. It's not needing to be addressed at this very moment, but it's something that would be nice to fill as well. A good, young, inexpensive goalkeeper as well. But it's that center back piece that they need to get over the top.
From there, let's move to one of the big boys in La Liga, Real Madrid. An interesting, rocky start to the season. They seem to have gotten their footing, Phil, but where do Real Madrid go from here?
Real Madrid needs some help, needs some depth, especially in the attack. I think defensively they're all right, but they need some help for players who are really performing well, like Vinicius Jr. and Benzema up top. And I think you could start doing that by biting the bullet and paying the money necessary to terminate the Take Kubo loan. He has more than proved that he could start in this Real Madrid squad or at least get solid minutes. So why not get him back in January now when he can make an impact on this season? Also, don't loan out Vinicius. What is this whole thing about loaning out Vinicius Jr.? He's been one of your top players going forward. He's been scoring and assisting on key goals that are getting you points to climb back up the table towards the top. And now you want to loan him out? For what reason? I don't understand that. I would not loan him out. Also, adding midfield depth is huge. Toni Kroos and Luka Modric need to have some weight taken off of their shoulders. Also, it would help too to have Casemiro be able to get a rest every now and then, or maybe be subbed off every now and then. And a player that would do that, obviously, is Eduardo Camavinga. Do they jump for him in January? I don't know, but eventually he needs to join the club.
Yeah, interesting takes there. I agree with you for the most part. I think Real Madrid, first and foremost, has to accept the fact that a huge rebuild is imminent. They should have went into full gear for those decisions, 2.5 years ago when Ronaldo left. But 2.5 years later, we start to see a shakier foundation. If you look at the core of that team, and that has been there since they've won their Champions Leagues, Ramos is 34, Nacho is 30, Marcelo is 32, and of those three aforementioned defenders, he seems to be on the decline the fastest. Toni Kroos is 30, Luka Modric is 35, Karim Benzema, yes, he is having a reinvigorated season, but he's 33. You need to look to bring in youth, and you need to look to focus more on the future as opposed to the present. Speaking of someone who could be the future, but seems to not be in the plans of Zinedine Zidane, I think it's time to let Isco walk and try and get as much as you can for him. Either full stop sell him or loan him with an obligation to buy. When it comes to the midfield, I think it needs to be injected first and foremost with this young potential and talent. And there's no one else that I look to that fits the mold of a Real Madrid player that I think could be purchased right in this window if you throw enough money at this club's way than Edward Camavinga. I agree with you there, Phil, and I'm certain Real Madrid has the money available to toss out for a transfer that will get the deal done from Rennes.
Yeah, we'll see if Real Madrid can get that done in January. Moving on to an interesting club that is nestled near the top. Can they make that big move to turn a corner and get into the top four of La Liga? Villarreal with Unai Emery leading the way at manager, what can Emery do to get, who can he bring in to get this club onto that next level?
I think first and foremost, you do have to look at the attack. There are a couple of concerns there, injury-wise, and your attacking core is older in age. So I think first and foremost, you do need to bring in a young, proven striker who can contribute instantly, even if he needs a bit of a push and he needs that spark lit. I think Maxi Gomez from Valencia could be that striker. You do need to strengthen the midfield, and if you look at an Unai Emery player, someone that he brought to Arsenal who may very well be available if Atleti terminates his loan, I think Lucas Torreira, if he's up for the challenge, would be a no-brainer signing for Unai Emery. And we know, again, Torreira is a player that Emery rates highly, so I don't see why this move wouldn't work. From there, like I've said for the other teams, do not let any of your talented youth leave for any reason. That includes Pau Torres and Chukwueze. I'm sure they'll both be highly sought after. I'm sure there will be feelers sent out to Villarreal, but you must hold firm and not sell any of these young prospects. Phil, where do you think Villarreal goes in the January transfer window? Or I should say, where would you take it?
I would take it to getting a solid young striker. Paco Alcacer and Carlos Baca are both out injured, which has been a huge hit to Villarreal's attack. I would go the younger route in terms of a striker. I would go towards maybe an Alexander Mitrovic, a player who has established himself at one point, for sure. Been a little bit left out at Fulham, can make an instant impact for Villarreal. And of course, as we've seen, Samu Chukwueze really just makes everyone around him seemingly look a lot better. So Mitrovic could definitely thrive in that attack. In terms of everything else, for a Villarreal team without a whole lot of money to be used, I'd say, like you said, Alex, making sure that key pieces like Samu Chukwueze, Pau Torres, even Santi Cazorla don't leave the club is going to be paramount.
So from there, let's move on to the other giant of La Liga, Barcelona. Phil, we see a huge mess there. Where do you even start with Barcelona in the January transfer window?
It's interesting. We all know the speculation with Leo Messi leaving, and there has been a whole lot thrown around even this week with interviews with Messi saying, of course, that this club changed his life, that he would obviously do anything for it. However, he did see that his career needed a different path. And of course, he and the president of the club at the time had conflicting views with regards to that. Obviously, there's going to have to be a decision made soon. And for the betterment of the club at this point, I think Barcelona might want to sell. You would get a lot of money, obviously, if you did, whether it be to PSG or Manchester City. And it would allow you to start bringing in young pieces to rebuild. You already have Ricky Puig, Pedri, Serginho Dest, some good young pieces. You still have some veteran leadership in Marc-Andre Ter Stegen, Gerard Piqué on the squad. You just need to keep on adding those young pieces that are going to be the future. I think the biggest move they can make is bringing in a Gianluca Busio to man up the other wing aside from Pedri in this squad. He would be a great player going forward. The next big thing from the MLS, he'll definitely be leaving for Europe alongside Brendan Arison when the time comes. Might as well be Barcelona that brings him in before a team like Bayern Munich are able to snatch him and make him the next Alphonso Davies. Also, buying a young center back could also be beneficial. I know they've been linked to Shorodan Mustafi, but that just isn't the answer, especially for a Barcelona club. Only the prime young center backs will do, whether that be an Upamecano or a Richards if they're able to pry him from Bayern, although that will take a lot. Either of those players would be the best moves for Barcelona to shore up a defense that has not been at its height this season for sure.
Yeah, I think when it comes to the Messi situation, if I were Barcelona, I think you'd have to have the feeling that Messi will be leaving on a free based off of the clause in his contract that come June he can opt out. If that still stands, I think you have to sell him for anything that you can get for him, obviously aiming for around the £100 million or €100 million mark. Will that be possible? Who knows? But you can't afford to lose him on a free. And the rebuild does need to start now. Like I said for Real Madrid, these old players with no long-term potential at the club need to be either moved outright or transitioned well, as they're all really not performing. We've seen things tighten up for Barcelona, but the club has went in a different direction and needs to just fully move in that direction and leave behind anything that will keep it from moving in that new direction. To that point, you do need to strengthen the defense. Jules Koundé from Sevilla would be a great option. He's a sound defender, young and full of potential, and I can see that backline winning championships for years to come, along with Lenglet on the left side of center back.
Interesting take there. And now, Alex, we move to Jules Koundé's current club, Sevilla, sitting on the outside looking in at the moment, but definitely not out of it. Are there any moves that Sevilla can make to push back into the top four?
Yeah, ironically, based off of that recommendation, the first move tactically would be not to sell either Diego Carlos or Koundé if possible. We know that Sevilla's biggest strong suit is their defense and their defensive prowess. Don't move away from that. As far as other needs of the squad, creativity does need to be injected into the squad, and I look at a player who may potentially be available, such as Julian Draxler, a great talent there. He's wasted away at PSG. If you can get him for the right price, that may be the interesting injection that you need at Sevilla to keep up this strong form, keep up the season, and make a good push in Champions League. I also look at the right back situation there and see that they do need a new right back. If you can, jump on Lamptey and give him a great environment to develop and reach his potential. We see this pace, we see this defensive prowess. I think he'd fit the system there, and it'd be interesting to see how he adjusts. But that would be the moves that I would look to make if I were in charge of transfers at Sevilla. Phil, what direction would you take this club?
Sevilla being one of the clubs that I support. It's interesting. There are a few different ways that you could look at what Sevilla can do. There's the one way that says, okay, we need to go all in now to try to get back into that top four. We're playing Champions League football this year. We want to be doing that next season. And then there's the other flip side, which says, well, we're not where we thought we would be with Barcelona and Real Madrid both struggling. With the team we have, we should be contending for league leaders right now. If Barcelona and Real Madrid are both out of the picture and we're not. So I think maybe some moves can be made to shake things up, get things away from where they are now, and bring on some players that can be that dynamic, just change to the team that could really make Sevilla, put them in a different situation than they are in now. Now, I think if you can get a prime price for Jules Koundé, selling him now might be the best option before he leaves later, possibly even for free. Who knows? Jules Koundé is probably going to want a step up in where he's playing. He has been a rock for this team, been fantastic player. He's going to want to leave for greener pastures sooner or later. If you could get a big price for him now, who knows? Not a lot of teams have big budgets, but if you could get a good enough price for him now, likely somewhere between 50 and 60 million pounds, I would say let him go. And from there, you could also say, well, let's Vaclik go too. Bono is Sevilla's goalkeeper. There's just no ifs, ands, or buts. Vaclik is solid. We've seen what he could do, but once he got injured, Bono stepped into that position and excelled. He made that position his. He's been fantastic for Sevilla, especially as of late in big matches. I would say keep Bono, sell Vaclik for what you could get for him now before his value diminishes. And lastly, if once you get money from that, buy a nice midfielder, attacking midfielder. If you're able to sell Jules Koundé and Vackley for a top dollar, maybe you could bring in a Hassem Aouar, who knows? Or even if you don't, maybe bring in a Christian Eriksen, Yves Bissouma, someone who could create up top, because we all know that Luke de Jong and Ocampos have both been playing well above their pay grades for a couple seasons now.
Yeah, it'll definitely be interesting to see where things go with the transfer window open, how fast teams start to make these moves. We'll keep track of it, and we'll definitely look to wrap it up once the window comes to a close at the end of the month. But that's it for the Cleats First, Logic Second, January 2021 Transfer Bonanza special. We'll be back next Tuesday for a regularly scheduled podcast. Thank you again, everyone, for listening and following. Happy New Year.
And of course, remember, meat first, soccer second.